there is the LGBTQ community, or is it the LGBTQ plus community? And what does this plus stand for?
So sex is the genitalia that one is born with. Gender is the role that one ascribes to oneself. A person can be gender fluid. A person can be gender questioning. Because I think what's very important to understand that what is the necessity of gender to start with?
Correct.
Why do we need gender? And where do we need gender? Shikhandi is one example. Vishnu converted into Mohini. Many examples of that. And that was part of Indian culture, which unfortunately today we have forgotten because of hundreds of years of British imposition.
So you're saying that today we are suffering from, of course, colonialism.
We
now.
are still suffering from the colonial hangover. We talk about looking at human rights of marginalized people. There is a huge range of marginalized people.
Even in our forms, when we are filling up the forms, there is M, F and other.
Absolutely. So that others is the big starting point of otherization.
Oh my God.
आप मैं नहीं, आप गैर हैं.
Oh my God. It's so ingrained.
Signing in a medical document if the partner is getting admitted in a hospital. Adopting children. These are all rights of married people.
Are you calling the institution of marriage very heterosexual?
I am calling the institution of marriage very patriarchal.
What else is required for us to get that? To have that attitude of nurturing, of being human.
Yeah, I think it's very important that you say being human.
Yeah.
Okay? That we have stopped being human. We have become either a particular religious sect or a particular gender identity or a particular sexual orientation identity.
Hello everyone, and you are watching NMN Pods. My name is Ananya Sen and I will be your host for today. In today's episode, we have with us Kaushik Gupta, who has been fighting the good fight for a very long time. He is a lawyer who has been advocating for the rights of the LGBTQ plus community for a very long time. Welcome, Kaushik, to our podcast today. So, in the beginning only, I will start with this quotation from a Hindi film. And it might sound very cringe, but here it goes. एक मच्छर एक आदमी को हिजरा बना देता है. Now, as I say it, I feel very uneasy, because there is so much prejudice in that one line. However, when this film was made, the kind of awareness that we have today when it comes to gender, we did not have that kind of an awareness then. And while growing up, I remember people, my adults, telling me to stay away from transgenders, Hijras, we call them. We were told to stay away from them, and whenever they would come to us, we would be scared to confront them. From there to today, where there is so much awareness about different kinds of gender, what would you like to say about this entire journey, of gender roles, and how it has transformed?
Right. I think that's a very pertinent question. And I would say that we were not made to fear the Hijras. What we were made to fear was anything or anyone that is different from us. Because we were scared of the difference. Because constantly we were trying to fit in to the norm. Right? Here, the Hijras, who were apparently men and dressed up like women, because we used to see life in the binary, just the man and the woman part. right? So there, they did not fit in either of the boxes. So anything that is different used to scare us. Times have changed. Now we have much acceptance, but not enough. However, when you were talking about hijras and you also mentioned the gender
Yes,
identity,
while you were talking, I just realized that I was so conscious when I was mentioning hijras. I could not even pronounce or, say hijras the way you do with so much confidence. And I think that is how much social conditioning, or that is what social conditioning has done to me.
absolutely. And this is something I feel that the new generation is challenging constantly.
Mm.
They are challenging themselves, right? So when we talk about hijras, we need to understand that hijra is a cultural identity. So all transgender persons are not hijras. All hijras might be transgenders. So now in the spectrum of LGBTIHKQ, hijras form a part.
Okay, so this was going to be my next question. That is, there is the LGBTQ community, or is it the LGBTQ plus community? And what does this plus stand for?
This plus actually is, there was LGBT to start with. Then Q was added. And then the plus. Because, otherwise it becomes a very long, almost like a sentence. Because as of date, even very briefly, I can say LGBTIHKQ. Each of them have a different meaning. L stands for lesbians, G for gays, B for bisexuals, T for transgenders, I for intersex persons. Intersex. So till now we know of LGBT.
Yeah.
So I'll go on explaining the rest of the
Right.
Abbreviations. Intersex person is a person who is born with ambiguous genitalia. Might be born with a penis without the gonads or the testis.
Okay.
Right? Might have a vagina but not have breasts.
Okay.
So that's an intersex person. Or might have a vagina along with the testis.
Okay.
In present day, in most of the countries, an intersex child is operated without their consent and put into the binary of either men or women. In a recent judgment, though it's a minority view, the Chief Justice of India said that such practice should be deprecated, should not be continued. H is the Hijras. They are called by different names in different parts of the country. At some places they are called Hijras, some places they are called Kinnars, Aravanis, etc., etc. K are the people who practice kink. We all know 50 Shades of Grey now,
Right.
Though which is a horrible piece of kink example. Kink is a practice where consent is paramount, where mutual respect is absolutely mandatory, where people practice bondage, sadomasochism, as the common terminology now everyone knows about BDSM. Q is queer. Now, queer, usually to start with, was seen as a non-normative gender marker or sexual orientation. What do I mean by non-normative? Non-normative is one that does not follow the norm. So, in society, the norm is heterosexuality. The norm is being a man or a woman. But there are people who do not follow the norm. They identify themselves as queer. It is very important to know that the identity is an individual choice. I am not going to identify anyone as LGBTIHKQ. That identity must be left to them.
I have a question. So you said queer is someone who does not follow the societal norms of gender.
I'm saying that initially queer was understood to be someone who does not follow the norms, societal norms of gender or sexual orientation. But today, and I would say in my personal opinion, queer identifying person will be a person who might challenge the existing social norms.
So queer person can also be LGBT.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Or they might not be that. So, when we think of a transgender person, we think of a man dressed like a woman or a woman dressed like a man in common parlance. But that's not so. A person can be gender fluid. A person can be gender questioning. Because I think what's very important to understand that what is the necessity of gender to start with?
Correct.
Why do we need gender? And where do we need gender?
Now that you're bringing up non-binary, basically, that's where we are leading towards. When we look back to our cultural texts, especially the sculptures, probably on Konark temples, and a lot more, depictions, we will see that we have a history of non-binary characters.
Absolutely, you are absolutely right. And today, it is very unfortunate that we are not accepting our Indian culture because we are still under the British imposition of the Victorian morality. Christianity at that point of time saw men and women as the purpose for the purpose of procreation. So anyone who cannot procreate was not part of their accepted belief. Till date, we are still carrying that legacy. In the mid and late 19th century, the Britishers brought a law which was termed as the Criminal Tribes Act. In that Criminal Tribes Act, for the first time, the Hijras as a community were turned into criminals.
Just like that?
Just like that. The word that was used was eunuchs, which is a derogatory word. It is not used anymore. The Hijras were designated as criminals by the British.
So what happened when you're just a baby and you're born like that? They were criminals then?
You see, for a very, very long time, especially during our young age, we have come to know that parents have abandoned intersex children, thinking that they are quote-unquote Hijras. But like I said, Hijra is a cultural identity which one needs to adopt. The child might be intersex, which is there as per their sexual organ, the genitalia. So we also need to understand here the distinction between gender and sexual orientation.
Could you please elucidate?
Sure. So sex is the genitalia that one is born with. Gender is the role that one ascribes to oneself. So if a man is born with a penis, that is that person's sex. If that particular person identifies themselves as a woman or as a non-binary, that is their gender identity. Now, this is something we need to understand, and this has so many references in Indian mythologies.
Shikhandi
is one example. So many examples. We know during the churning of the Amrit,
right?
Vishnu converted into Mohini, right? So there are many examples of that, and that was part of Indian culture, which unfortunately today we have forgotten because of hundreds of years of British imposition.
So you're saying that today we are suffering from, of course, colonialism. Even
we are still suffering from the colonial hangover. This is where we need to read our history, our text.
Go back to our roots.
Where we had acceptance, tolerance. India was built on tolerance of diversity.
in the midst of conversations these days, there is so many identities, right? And pronouns, people have started identifying themselves in as they, them, queen, um, and so on, right? Um, and yes, we do use it, jokingly. We make fun of it at times, without knowing the relevance or the seriousness of this identification, right? um, could you talk, could you tell us the importance of this identification, the they, the them, and so on, the relevance of pronouns
Right.
in today's time?
Right. So, when we are talking to a man, we refer that person as he. So, in public, how would that man feel if the man is constantly referred to as she? Or if a woman is constantly referred to as he? They will object.
Mm.
So, what happens when a person does not identify as a man or a woman? English language has this limitation of pronouns, which many other Indian languages do not have. ये हिंदी में भी है. पर जब भी हम हिंदी इस्तेमाल करते हैं, जब भी ये जेंडर की बात आते हैं, तो अगर मैं बोलती हूं या मैं बोलता हूं, इसमें सुनने वालों को क्या फर्क पड़ता है? So this is something we need to think of. That English language and many other languages have the limitation of gender. So therefore, using the chosen gender for a person is very, very important, because that is their marker of identification.
I was just thinking whether the same sort of relevance is there in the Bengali language or not.
In Bengali, gender is not there.
Yeah, and that is what I was thinking, because we refer to as people as she, o.
Correct. There's no gender. In many Indian languages, there is no gender. In some Indian languages, there is gender. So wherever there is gender, we need to...
So interesting.
Because please understand, we are here in the process of evolution. And Darwin never said the process of evolution is a one-time process. It is a continuing process. Similarly, language also evolves. Nowadays, even in English, we do not say, thou art here.
No, we don't.
We do not say. Right? The Gen Z language has also changed.
Right.
At times, it becomes very difficult for old people like me to understand. But language is evolving.
Yes.
So, in the process, the use of gender in language, especially English language, would also evolve and is evolving.
What's one legal reform you think that could significantly transform or impact the protection of and the recognition of the LGBTQ plus rights in India?
I think the most important thing that I will advocate for is a national anti-discrimination law, where, as per law, a person, because of their sexual orientation or gender marker, cannot be discriminated in any manner whatsoever. So till date, have you seen a transgender person in army? Can you think of? You cannot. Even in the film industry, how many transgender actors are there? It's
coming.
It's only coming now, right? But a trans woman is not really given a role to play given the opportunity to play the role of a heroine yet.
Again, it's happening.
It's slowly,
yes,
but not in the larger scale.
Right.
We cannot name one, even in several OTT, very renowned OTT series. They used a woman to play a transgender woman. Right? So there is marginalization, there is discrimination at every stage. So the need of the day is a national anti-discrimination law, where on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity, no one can be discriminated.
But then again, washrooms, I mean, if we come to basics, if you're talking about no discrimination at all, first thing that comes to my mind is washrooms.
Correct.
Because today, a woman who identifies herself as non-binary or as a man would feel very vulnerable to walk into a woman's washroom. And same goes for a man who identifies himself as non-binary or as a woman. Or
Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I think it's a very, very pertinent point. Why can't we think of, besides the men's and the women's washrooms, why can't we think of unisex washrooms? And think about it. Unisex washrooms is not uncommon. All our houses have one.
Mm,
In our own houses, the men of the house do not go to a different washroom than women of the house.
correct.
They use the same washroom.
Yes.
If we see the entire city, even public toilets, as an extension of our house, we can have unisex toilets.
But then, as a woman myself, I think there should be three,
I agree. Like I said, besides men's, women's, there can be a unisex toilet, and not only unisex toilet, that toilet should also be disabled friendly.
There are disabled friendly toilets.
Some,
Yes.
not all. None of the public toilets in India are disability friendly. At least 90% are not.
Is it?
Yes.
Because
there are certain.
you go to shopping malls or railway stations.
Yes, shopping malls, railway stations, they are new structures which might have come
Hospitals.
up. Hospitals, because of the 2017 Act,
Okay.
Protection of Persons with Disabilities, the Rights of Persons with Disabilities law, and made it mandatory.
Even
But if you walk down the streets, look at any pay and use toilet,
no.
you will see there are 3 staircases.
Correct.
So this is something, when we talk about looking at human rights of marginalized people, there is a huge range of marginalized people.
Even in our forms, when we are filling up the forms, there is M, F, and other.
Correct. Absolutely. So that others is the big starting point of otherization. That other is where I other you. You are not us. You are the other.
Oh my God.
आप मैं नहीं, आप गैर हैं.
Oh my God. It's so ingrained.
Absolutely. It's very ingrained. इसीलिए शायद हम लोगों को अंदर से बदलना पड़ेगा.
Right.
The change that has to come from within. क्योंकि ये बाहर की बात नहीं है. ये मेरे घर में भी हो सकता है. ये मेरे दोस्त के साथ भी हो सकता है. मेरे बच्चे के साथ भी हो सकता है. So the question then is, do I love my child? Do I love my friend? Or do I love them only if they are in a particular manner?
Or the idea of them,
Or the
basically.
idea of them. The idea that I have in my mind. And it's very interesting that psychology says that we see a lot of homophobia and transphobia. Psychologists say that at times we are homophobic or transphobic because we have similar desires within ourselves, which
Of course.
we have not been able to accept within ourselves, and we hate that self of us.
I've often wondered, do you think that the LGBTQ plus movement falls under the spectrum of feminism? Do you think that way? Because
Yes and no.
okay.
Yes, I'll say, because the queer politics, as I have understood it and as I have seen it for the last 20 years, has been feminist. But in recent times, when the queer politics suddenly went towards fitting into a very, very patriarchal heteronormative institution namely marriage, I found that pretty anti-feminist. Because what the queer movement said, or what the queer persons who filed the petition in their own way said, that we want the same rights as a heterosexual couple gets when they get married. So they were trying to get into the shoes of the heterosexual couple to get the social entitlements. Now there I felt the queer movement lost its feminist perspective, because feminism would mean including everyone. So there, the queer persons did not consider the rights of single individuals. The queer persons did not talk about people who are in polyamorous relationships and live in polycules. They live, 3 or 4 people live together. What about their rights? What about the rights of people who choose to remain single? What about the rights of persons who are now divorced, widowed? So, marriage gives a bouquet of social rights. For example, if I am a member of a club, automatically my wife will become a member of the club. But my same-sex partner might not be. So, what would the queer community want?
Same rights.
Same rights, not only for themselves, but for all. If I was asked, I will say, challenge the rights which come from the institution of marriage, and say that any right which arises from the institution of marriage should be made available to everyone across the board. A single person must also have the similar rights that a married person has. Very, very easy things. Housing, insurance, buying joint property, signing in a medical document if the partner is getting admitted in a hospital, adopting children. These are all rights of married people.
Are you calling the institution of marriage very heterosexual?
I am calling the institution of marriage very patriarchal.
Very patriarchal. It is indeed. As a single woman, I really find it very patriarchal. Now that we are talking about rights, what are the specific rights that the LGBTQ plus community fighting for? What is it that they're demanding now?
The rights that the LGBTQ plus community are fighting for, first is the fight against violence. The violence from the natal family. The violence starts at home from their very young age. When a person who is assigned male at birth, whom the parents see as a boy, starts dressing up with their mother's sari and mother's makeup, they are given a beating. So the violence starts from very childhood, very young age. That violence has to stop. And this violence is not because of the children. They are being themselves. It is because of the ignorance of the parents, the family. That needs to stop. Secondly, there has to be equal opportunity. There was a fight for women's rights. I mean, less than 100 years back, women did not have a right to vote. Right? So today, we need to see equality across the board. Article 14 of the Constitution of India, which is a fundamental right, says that all are equal in the eye of law. That equality is what the community demands. Third is, so this equality that I'm talking about is equality of treatment. I would also talk about equality of opportunity. How many trans persons do we see in military? How many trans persons have we seen in the police. It's only in recent times, after 2014, after the judgment of Supreme Court in Nalsa versus Union of India, that this change is coming forward. But 10 years have passed. Still, how many are we seeing? So I feel that these are certain basic rights that the community is fighting for. Obviously, there are ancillary rights like nominee of an insurance, being a successor in interest in spite of not being married. Okay, that if I am gay and if I have a partner, after my death, my partner should get all my property. But as of date, the law is, if I do not execute a will, my family members
We'll get
will get it, even if though they are those family members who tortured me throughout my life and for whom I had to leave education, leave home, suffer, and then find a partner and start leading a happy life. These are the changes that, or these are the rights that the community would be looking for.
How long do you think it's going to take us to get there? Because when we talk about equality for women also, we are not there yet. Yes, we can vote, but again, that's because of the voting bank. We do not have equal pay yet. There is discrimination when job opportunities are concerned. There is discrimination in a basic conversation out there. So there is discrimination that women still face. And it's been... When were we allowed to vote again? Which year?
Yeah, maybe 50 years back.
Right. So, and I don't see any improvement there.
Yeah.
So how long do you think that it will take, for the LGBT plus community to live with the same amount of rights that anybody else has today in society?
This is a continuous fight. This is a continuous battle. Like you say, that women's rights movement is still going on. It has not come to an end. Right? And what we majorly fail to understand, that feminism is not anti-men.
Right.
Because in the patriarchal system, men are also sufferers.
Men are the biggest victims.
Absolutely. I mean, the pressure of masculinity that men carry.
And the fact that you cannot be vulnerable. You cannot cry.
Absolutely. औरत जैसा रोना मत.
I have said it so many times to my friends back in college and school that, why are you crying like a girl?
Absolutely. And then we learn. Then we improve ourselves.
Right.
And then we evolve.
And learn from our mistakes. I think that in the process of evolution that I was talking about, I think the most important thing would be whether we are learning from our mistakes and we are ready to change. If we are not ready to change, someday we will become extinct. Those who will change, those who will evolve, they will stay. But maybe that's a long drawn process. Somewhere I was reading that, patriarchy and matriarchy. What's the difference between the two? It's not about a woman replacing the man, but it's about nurturing. Mother Nature nurtures. Women nurture. What about the LGBTQ plus community? Do you think that feminism will get us there as a movement? If not, what else is required for us to get there? To have that attitude of nurturing, of being human.
I think it's very important that you say being human.
Yeah.
Okay? That we have stopped being human. We have become either a particular religious sect or a particular gender identity or a particular sexual orientation identity. But at the end of the day, we all are the same. I think the most important thing that we as the human race need to work on consciously is empathy. Not sympathy, but empathy. Right? So until and unless we develop that, we will end up killing each other. You see, so many wars are going on. So much is happening. And we do not know where this comes to an end. And like they say that the reason that we know that there are other intelligent beings in the entire universe is because they have not tried to contact us yet. We are not intelligent enough for them. We are not evolved enough for them to communicate with us.
You know, in Los Angeles, there is so much awareness about the LGBTQ plus community now, right? Again, there are a section of people who are saying that this identity crisis is being forced on individuals on a very young age, at a very young age, whereas children want to undergo sex change operations. And now my point is that when you are 12 or 13, you are confused. When I think of myself as a teenager, I was definitely confused about my sexual orientation, about my preferences. But now, as an adult, probably I can say that yes, I might like this section of people more than that section of people. So what I'm trying to say is, do you think that sex change operations should be conducted when you are a minor? Because a lot of people opt for that.
Yeah, I would say no. Because as per the law in India, a person below the age of 18 cannot consent. Their consent is not valid. So as long as that law is there, the person cannot agree or cannot give consent to a body changing operation. However, having said that, I'll add that it's very, very important to develop sufficient number of mental health professionals to whom the parents and the child can go and have an open-minded counseling session to ensure and to understand and to ensure that if the child is non-binary, if the child is not a normative child, then how to navigate so that when that child reaches the adulthood, the child is matured enough to take a decision about their life. So, very interestingly, that because law needed a cut mark, so 17 years, 11 months, you are not an adult. But 18 years, one day you are an adult. So that 1 month and 1 day makes a difference. But that has to be there because law needs certain certainties. But I feel that what we need is the process of preparation, both for the parents, for the larger family, and the society, to be ready that when the child is 18, they know what they want and there is a full support of the family and society.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kaushik. I'm just glad that today we could have this conversation about the various genders, sexual orientations. And thankfully, like you just said, that it's an ongoing process. When I look at the world now, yes, there is so much, that needs to change, that we need to work on. But I'm still glad that today, like a few days back, I met a friend of mine who in school was quote unquote tomboyish. Okay. And I don't like this term because it's been used on me a number of times. So anyway, so she was very tomboyish. And the other day, I met him. And he had completely changed and he was so happy. And he comes from a very lower middle class Bengali family with a mother and a father and a uncle who depends on him. And when I asked him about his surgery and how his parents, how his family reacted to it, his answer was, they're just happy because I am happy. And I think that we've come to this because of, again, people like you who've taken that initiative to fight for the rights.
Yeah, but Ananda, I'll say this is extremely touching to hear this. And I'll say that शायद कहीं पे ये सोचना पड़ेगा कि मैं क्या खुद से प्यार करता हूं ज्यादा या मैं अपने बच्चे से प्यार करता हूं. अगर मैं अपने बच्चे से प्यार करता हूं सच में, तो बच्चा क्या चाहते हैं वो मेरे को देखना पड़ेगा. अगर मैं खुद से प्यार करता हूं ना सिर्फ, तो मैं ये सोचूंगा कि यही सही है और यही करना चाहिए. That perspective needs to change.
Right. Be more compassionate.
Be more compassionate. Have understanding. जो आप समझते नहीं हैं, जाके किसी से पूछिए जो समझते हैं, उनकी बात सुनिए.
Seek knowledge.
Seek knowledge. Look for knowledge.
And learn.
And learn. And evolve.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this beautiful conversation that we just had. And thank you for listening to us. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Stay tuned for our next episode.